Okay, now we'll see if this works. That sounds better. Many buttons, many strange wiring things tonight because we're showing, I've got a bunch of different stuff going on, and we're going to talk about how I got the Keylab. That's the thing. The Keylab MkII to work correctly. And yeah, that was a trick. Actually, not quite so tricky as one would think once we figured out what was going on. And I got to say that Ableton was pretty helpful with that. So we're going to talk about that real quick. This is very simple what I had to do, and then we'll get on with the something resembling a deconstruction of a track, and that'll be it. Probably won't be very long tonight, but I do want to walk through all this stuff, and hopefully we'll have some Q&A, and then I'll maybe have a little bit of news towards the very end of the stream. We'll see how that goes. So anyway, let's get to it. Let's get right to it. So first thing, I need to get switched over so that we can look at what we need to look at on the computer. So I've got things set up a lot differently tonight than usual. Because I need to be able to jump in back and forth and around between various things. So, yeah, so let's put that there. So there's the computer. It's tiny, and that's not going to help you guys much. So let me switch that so that if I press that button and go to that button, and that button, we now have the computer full screen. So you may remember last week I was very frustrated with having control issues with the new Keylab, and basically the short of it was that if I was using the Keylab to try and control pretty much anything, but specifically Analog Lab, which was one of the reasons that I bought the Keylab, was because I wanted better control over Arturia's Analog Lab. When I would turn any one of the, let's get this here real quick. If I would turn any one of these control knobs, the corresponding control in Analog Lab would just jump. And it was just the knobs. The faders worked great, but these knobs, they were basically useless. I couldn't do any kind of smooth effects changes or anything like that. So, short of it was, I did a bunch of troubleshooting. I found that it worked correctly in Ableton Live 12, did not work correctly, or in 11, I'm sorry, it worked correctly in Analog Lab 11, did not work correctly in Analog Lab, geez, let me get this right. Let me back up. I'm tired. Worked correctly in Ableton Live 11 with Analog Lab 5 and Analog Lab 4. And it worked right out of the box. All I did was set up, was install. All I did was install the reinstall Ableton Live 11, turn it on, and it worked. So that kind of gave me a clue that any issue that was going on was very likely in Ableton Live and not in anything to do with Arturia's side of the setup. So I putzed around and putzed around and putzed around and putzed around and looked on spent a lot of time looking on YouTube. Everything showed, there were no videos on how to do this, how to make this thing work correctly in Ableton Live 12. Everything was for Ableton Live 11. So I sent a tech support request into the folks at Ableton. That was on a Friday. On Monday, can't remember what day it was. They got back to me like the day after or the day after that, pretty quickly, all things considered, and gave me some things to try. It was stuff that I had things that I'd already tried, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway because, they're helping. So went through the process, still the same, but still continued to kind of look around. I sent a note back to them and saying, it's still not working here. And waited for a reply. They asked me to do a couple things and send them a file, which I did. In the interim, I went in and poked around some more. And in that poking is where I found what turns out to be the secret to make it work right. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it. What I'm going to show you will work to get a Keylab MkII, and the same process will work for the Minilab MkII. I make no promises about Mark III anything, but the Minilab MkII and the Keylab MkII both use the same basic setup. You just choose a different controller in your list. So let's jump over to the computer here, and boom, here we go. So the trick is all in your options setup. So what you're going to do on your and I'm looking in Windows, obviously. I shouldn't assume. I'm going to guess that the setup for Mac is the same or similar. But you go into options, you go down to settings, and you go to the link tempo and MIDI tab, and you'll see here that stuff up here doesn't necessarily, I don't think, matter that much. What does matter, you have all of your devices listed here as MIDI control surfaces. If they're not here, you're going to have to add them, and then they'll show up in the list here. I have takeover mode set to none, and then as we scroll down through this list, you'll see all of your inputs and all of your input ports. So anything that's coming into Ableton Live over MIDI. In my case, I have I got about a dozen outputs. I've got 8 inputs that are DIN MIDI. I've got host inputs. I've got stuff coming in over USB. So I have a long list here. Your mileage will vary. And you can see that I've got my Minibrute coming in. I got my Take 5 coming in. I've named these ports on the iConnectivity Mio XL MIDI interface. Op6 is there in the list, although I'm not bringing anything in from that, so nothing's turned on. Here's where it gets important, right here. Okay, this Keylab MkII 49, and which is I got the 49 key version of the Keylab. If you have the 61, it will say 61. If you've got the 88, it will say 88. You want this other line here for the Keylab is for the MIDI ports, the hardware MIDI ports, 5-pin ports on the controller. I have these both set to be track inputs. I do not have them set, and this is important, I do not have them set to have sync turned on or remote turned on. Ordinarily, if you have a control surface of some sort and you want it to be able to remotely control Ableton Live, you would turn that on. Okay, but with the Keylab, and as it turns out, I don't have it set up right now, but as it also turns out with the Kontrol S, the Native Instruments Kontrol S49, which has a similar situation, you do not want these set to remote. They don't need to be set there. So they're set to track only. It's the only thing turned on there. That fourth column here would be for MPE. Since these are not MPE controllers, we don't want that turned on. Okay, so that's key right there. The next part that is also absolutely key is down here under output ports. And you can see I've got output ports because I'm sending sync and track data to the Minibrute and also to the Take 5 because I want to be able to synchronize their arpeggiators and internal sequencers. Same goes for the Op6. I've got track and sync turned on because, again, I want to be able to control its internal arpeggiator. Down here where it says Keylab MkII 49 and Keylab MkII output, these are turned off. Okay. Now, what I haven't done yet, and I probably won't, I don't need to in my situation. The only thing I can see wanting to turn any of this stuff on, you might, if you have something daisy chained down the path from your Keylab. So if you've got basically USB to your computer, and then you're using the MIDI ports on the Keylab as your MIDI interface to your hardware. And I'll follow up with that when I get around to it. I do want to try that because that's another scenario that I want to try working with. But you don't want to be sending anything back to the Keylab. And that's kind of counterintuitive in some ways because you would expect that when you're in Analog Lab mode, that you would need to have that turned on so that it knows, so that the keyboard knows what presets you've selected, so it can just and so that the display on the Keylab can track the information coming back from Analog Lab, but it doesn't. When you're in Analog Lab mode on here, it bypasses apparently a lot of what's going on in Ableton Live's MIDI control. If you don't have that turned off, the encoders will jump. There's some sort of argument going on back and forth between the controller and Ableton Live. So again, nothing is turned on in your outputs to the Keylab. And again, this may change when I start doing something downstream. If it does, I'll come back and we'll talk about that in a later stream. But again, this has got to be turned off. This is turned off. Only thing turned on for the Keylab at all are the input ports. That's it. And so what happens is once you've done that and you bring up Analog Lab, let's go over, switch to that. That's on track 6. So we'll bring up Analog Lab. And I happen to have the new Minibrute V instrument loaded up at the moment. But if I go ahead and let's see, I will pop that up there so you can see that I'm reaching for a knob. When I grab the knob and turn it, oh, have to be in Analog Lab mode. Smooth sailing. Smooth sailing, no jumps. It just does exactly what it's supposed to do. And you can see as I'm turning that knob, these first 4 controls are macros within Analog Lab, and so they'll do multiple things. So you can see as I'm turning that time knob, you can see the time knob being the second one, or the third one, this third control here. You can see I'm moving, I'm mixing the oscillator types, oscillator shapes. So if I play this, and that filter modulation there is coming in for aftertouch. And the timbre is changing the resonance. And brightness is the cutoff, typically. And the other thing about this is, since these are macro control knobs, the ranges that you can actually turn the cutoff control, you'll see is I'm spinning like crazy here, but if you look on the screen, the cutoff is not moving anymore. There's macro controls. The macro setup for this particular preset limits the range of the cutoff control. So anyway, that's how that works. And I'll tell you what, getting that working, I mean, I was literally this close to calling up my Sweetwater rep and saying, man, this is not going to work for me. I've got to send it back. And I mean, it was literally down to the wire. I had about, I guess 2 hours of time left that I could call and say, I'm sending it back. I need an RMA. So I'm very happy that this works, believe me, because I really, really like this controller for a lot of reasons. The action of the keyboard is really nice. It's got lots of control, and if you've heard me ramble on in the past, I love to be able to control things. So it's I've got 9 faders. If I want to do drawbar organ stuff, I can do drawbar organ stuff. You can actually flip, down is up and up is down, so that you can actually pull out the drawbars to turn everything up. You got various select functions here. When you're in Analog Lab, this can choose different genres or different types of sounds. I've got control here, and let's, if you guys don't mind taking a wild ride, I will zoom in and see how close I am to actually being at the right spot. Here we go. Oops, wrong button. Sorry, guys. We're coming back now. There we go. So you can see, if you look here, you can see it says Minibrute, and if I've got I'm turning the knob, it's telling us that we're looking at what it calls brightness, telling you what the value is, and that number's coming back now from Analog Lab. I believe. Let's see if this actually works. I haven't tried this. It doesn't change it there. But I just changed it on screen, and it doesn't necessarily feed back, but it picks up when it gets there. And that's because there are different ways you can set that latching mode so that it does different things, reacts differently when you do the how it picks up where you were. Same is true of the faders. If you look, shoot, let me get the right thing up there for you. Boom. So if you look down here in lower left in the lower left here, it says amp envelope attack. So basically I got the ADS, both ADSRs in here. So it says amp envelope attack. You can see it's all the way down, but if you look here, you see the fader for it I think this is the right fader for it. Yeah, the fader for it is not all the way down. So as I slide, it'll kind of scale, and it'll scale the output to match. So this one you can see is all the way down, but that's all the way up. So it won't actually. It'll scale, and then pick it up and move it down where it track with the actual fader. Just really nice. That way you don't get any unexpected changes when you grab a hold of a fader or a knob. And that was kind of the point of having the really good control, that I really wanted to be able to do that. So that's that. That's Analog Lab and the Keylab working together exactly the way they're supposed to. One other thing that you do need to do in Analog Lab, let's show you that. Let me get that thing out of the way. There we go. Because I need more screen real estate for that. Let's slide this over, pop this out. The other thing you need to do in Analog Lab, in its MIDI tab, you do need to tell it what controller you're using. That's in the upper right there where I popped that tray out. And they've got a whole list of Arturia controllers, keyboards, and then 2 generic types that don't match anything in the world that I've seen. The interesting thing about this is this list, if you look at the bottom of this list, you see factory and laboratory. Those are the first 2 products that Arturia made. And a couple decades ago, I think. I mean, this goes way back. And so laboratory, factory, and microlab, they go way back into the history of Arturia, and Arturia is still supporting those products with the latest versions of their software, which I think is fantastic, and fully supporting them. That's what's really impressive to me, that they're fully supporting those things. So that's that. I will stop rambling on about that beauty. But I'll tell you what, other than to say it made me incredibly happy that I got that working and working correctly. All right, so now for the next trick, I'm going to switch over there, and I'm going to press on that while we're doing it. Always remind you, if you like what you're seeing, subscribe, hit the like button, visit my website, visit my Bandcamp, all that stuff. Links for that are down in the program description. We got to get that plug in. So what I need to do now, and I may disappear from audio while I'm doing it. This is kind of a weird setup tonight because I'm trying to do more than one thing at a time. So what I want to do now, we're going to talk about. This is the segue to the part where I talk about how I put one of the tracks together. And so let me do this while I'm. Yeah, I'll let you. Maybe it'll not blow up while I'm doing this. Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to close the window that you see. The mic is probably going to go away for a minute. I will bring it back up manually through the mixer. So first thing we're going to do, let's open the project for the song we're going to be talking about, which is 23rd Winter number 14. This is the one that came out. This is the song I released not this past Sunday, but the week before. And so we're going to change. Sure, we'll change these because I'm going to want to come back to this. Maybe. Yeah, we're going to come back to that. So there we go. And as suspected, the mic went away. You should be hearing me again. Yeah, good. I can't hear myself in headphones at the moment, but I know you hear me because I see it on the meters. And their sync might have changed a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, this is loading up, and so now we've got this track, and this shows off a bunch of the neat new features in Ableton Live 12. So before we get to that, though, I want to take you on a little historical trip of sorts. We're going to go over here to this guy, and what I want to do. Actually, I'll come back and talk to you for a second. Let me do. What do I have up here? I'll jump over to this thing. Not all the controls that I need are on the switcher itself, so we're going to let it reconnect to the app. This will take a moment. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Click on that. Click on that. Click on that. Okay, so. The deal is that the song that we're talking about tonight is one that I started back in January of 2023 during January. The idea behind what I was doing then, I was doing a bunch of different stuff then, but the idea, part of it was that I might come back and revisit some of these things later, either to touch them up and release them as they are, and some of those are indeed coming. But the other part of that idea was that I might want to rework them or add to them or whatever. The tricky part about a lot of that is that everything that I did in January of 2023 was done in hardware. There was the only aspect of the DAW was that I used it to record the final outputs and then prep it for upload. The music was made using some sort of looper and hardware synths. In the case of this particular one, it was made using some of my modal electronics synths, and so it has a very distinctive sound to it. It's got kind of a direction. So what I want to do, it's just a few minutes. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to play that song for you now. And the video that was created to go along with it to put it up on YouTube for January. So let's roll with that. Let's go ahead and put the computer back up by going like so. There we go. There's the computer. I'll start this over again. And I apologize for the low level. So for those just joining, this is a replay of the song that was the source of inspiration for the song we're going to be deconstructing. And I rolled this video because it talks a little bit about the way the original song was produced, what went into it, and so that's pretty much the end of it. And so from that, let's see, go back to there. From that, we ended up with this. Oh, I got the wrong thing on the screen. What a yutz I am. Good thing I wasn't doing anything stupid. All right, there we go. Alright, so, point is, the old one inspired this one. I'm going to stop this for now, and we'll come back to that later. What I want to talk about, though, in this episode is a little bit about how that got put together. Obviously, they're different songs, and but the kind of the parts of the feel and the rhythm and the groove, I guess, a little is similar. And it was really a process of what inspired me, and then how I put the song together. It's a little different actually than the song that I released this past weekend. So let's get the mixer out of the way, and I'll show you the basically the layout of the song. There are not a whole lot of tracks. I used a number of plugins for this. I used Dawson's Myth, which is one of my favorite. I used augmented strings augmented. Actually, I think that's augmented voices from Arturia. Let's pop that up. Make sure I'm talking about the right thing. Yep, augmented voices or woodwinds. I'm sorry, woodwinds from Analog Lab. I really like these Analog Lab or these Arturia augmented series plugins. Something out of Vital, an instance of the Minibrute V. I did. Let's see. We got this one is another augmented. This one's the voices. I knew voices was in there somewhere. Yeah. So now, unfortunately, at the time I did this, I didn't have good control with the Keylab, so I wasn't doing a lot of neat control stuff. Unfortunately, but that's the way that goes. So the way I work in Ableton. We'll flip over. This is gonna hopefully this doesn't break anything when I do this. But the way I work in Ableton is I actually work a lot in clips, and so every little bit becomes a clip, and I do things with the clips. I'll start with a basic clip and a basic, sound, and I will then flip that or minorly alter it and use it again and again and again in slightly altered forms. So like this is the Myth. This is the one from Myth. If I play this, we'll see what happens. Maybe. Let's see if this actually does what I want it to do. Let's get where I want to be. There I am. Not seeing what I want, so I'll just play it here. So So this is just the part, that intro part that came off of Myth. You know, and along with that, there's a little drum loop. Why it's playing that I don't know, but here we go. Brings in the drum kits. Now the drum kits for me, the drum kits for me, I'm not a drummer. I know enough about drumming to know that has got into a session view. Yeah. So I'm not a drummer, but I do understand one important thing about drums, about a drum kit, and that is that a human has 2 feet and 2 hands, and therefore can't hit more than 4 things at a time. So, you know, I will always, very often start with a groove that I like, and if you know, Ableton Live comes with a bazillion really good drum loops. So I am not shy about using them as starting points. And as I go through a song, what I will do is each time I copy it down. A lot of people would basically say, okay, I just want to play the same thing here, so I wouldn't even put anything in there. We just play into it. I'll copy it down and make subtle modifications to it. So, you know, I've only really been recently, Luke, switching back and forth between session and an arrangement view. That's only been a recent thing for me. I would either work in one or work in the other, depending on what I was working on. Just recently, I've started, you know, building a track here and then flipping it over and then rearranging things. Because what's in here, this sequence that's in here, the sequence of all the tracks that are in here, was really kind of a sketch pad for me to build the song. And so I did the thing. I got it kind of how I liked it. You know, not necessarily perfect, but kind of how I wanted it. And then moved it over into arrangement view, and then I did some more editing and that. But that's really how I built it up. I mean, there's nothing really magic here. The other thing is, this particular song was not done in the studio. The entire thing was done on my other laptop in the dining room while watching TV. And so that's one thing I really love about Ableton Live is especially the way I've got my setup running. I can work on something in one machine. I've got the 2 computers set up identically as far as plugins and everything. I can work on something in one machine, save the project. I'll usually do a collect all and save if I'm going to move from one machine to the next. And then I move over to another machine and can work on it. It's ready to go as soon as I walk in and sit down. And I'm basically bouncing everything off of, I'm using Microsoft OneDrive because I've got a big Microsoft account from work. So all my projects are synchronized across OneDrive, and they're just ready to go when I walk into the studio. And I can even do some stuff on my machine down in the office. My third instance of Ableton Live is installed down there. I don't do much down there, and I'm probably going to clean that one off soon, but I've got that flexibility if I want it. So basically, I mean, this is really nothing, there's no magic here, except that, you know, I will trim these, I'll go in and make minor modifications once I've got everything into arrangement view. Steve, that's okay, man. This will be available for replay, so you can catch up later. Thanks for coming. I know it's late there. Have a good night's sleep, and we'll catch you later. But I'll go into a sequence here, into a clip here, and make whatever changes I want to make. I may make changes in controller information or node information, or fix things. A lot of times when I'm doing stuff in a key or in a scale, I'll actually do those changes to move something into the fit to scale function. I'll actually do in this view as opposed to clip view, because I can see a little better what's going on, and I can drag this guy up, and I can see everything that's going on within that segment of the song. And so that the other thing that I do when I'm doing this is that there are no two, even though, like you look here, we have 2R, 1R, 2. This isn't showing all of it, unfortunately, or one that's got more clips. Actually, this song is really simple compared to some of the other stuff. But if you look up, it's hard to see because the color I've got here for the myth track is really bad. But in this track, I've got myth 1, I've got myth 1, I got myth 1, I got myth 2. But each one of these is legible for you guys. Good. It's dark here. But you see, I've got myth 1, myth 1, myth 1, myth 2, myth 1, myth 1, myth 1. But each one of these is slightly different. I've gone in and I've shifted things in time a little bit, or maybe changed a note here or there, added a note, subtracted a note, just so that it's not absolutely repeating all the way through unless it really needs to. The other thing is, like, I'll base one segment off another segment, and so that just flows down through all of the tracks. If I'm a big fan of using the compositional tools within Ableton Live, especially some of the new ones, but even in 11, I made great use of a lot of these modifiers for a sequence. I do things like I reverse, or invert. Reverse and invert are favorites. A new favorite for me in Ableton Live 12 is add interval. I really like that because I can get these really nice parallel lines going very easily. I can set I can add the interval. Say I want thirds to follow, and then I'll go ahead and fit that to scale so that it's always playing the right interval as it goes along. I mean, I can play that on the keyboard, but if I'm sitting in the dining room working on a song, I don't have a keyboard out there. Or if I'm in a hotel room, I don't have a keyboard with me usually. I'm going to start, now that I got everything working well with the Arturias, though, I may start carrying the Minilab with me a lot more. We'll see how that goes. But that is the gist of how I build a track. Another thing that goes on here, I do make a lot of use of busing for effects. So if we go back to, if I bring the mixer back in, where's my mouse? There's my mouse. I've got 4 effects sends in this, and so I've got my reverb, which is I really like this. I really like this. Where is it? Come here. Come on. Oh, click in the right spot. I really like these this epic series from. Oh crud! I forgot the name of the maker. If you do a search for Epic Clouds and Epic Plate Mark II, these are free plugins. And the Epic Clouds especially is one of the nicest shimmer delays I've ever heard, because it's not overly shimmery. It just kind of gets cloudy, and it's a beautiful sounding reverb. Works very well. Works as a send. Works well in line as well. It works wherever you want to put it. It works, and it sounds great. The Epic Clouds or Epic Plate is equally as good, I think. It's a beautiful plate reverb. Oh, I got that turned on from before. And the interfaces, go figure, strikingly similar. But again, these things are free. He's got a whole slew of excellent free plugins that I've only begun to explore. I would encourage you, if you do try them and like them, kick him a few bucks on his whatever platform he's got over there for sharing money. And then also on this one, I've got one of my other favorites delays. This is the cluster delay by Minimal Audio, this, I think, this and the echo delay in Ableton Live, the one that comes with Suite, and I think Standard as well. These are my two favorite delays, pretty much bar none, and they're just sweet sounding delays. You get a little bit more control, I think, with this as far as dispersion and how you can move things around. And then the only other effect on here, a couple of things. It looks like, yeah, about half the tracks actually go into this guy, into Beam, which is really kind of a cool effect. And in the case of this song, I didn't even use anything besides the default. It's just the straight default factory patch, load it up, turn it on. This is what you get, first one. This thing is really cool because it combines what they call space, which is a reverby, delay-y kind of function, and a granular function. And anyone knows me knows I'm a granular fiend. Can't not do granular. So that's the whole setup. I mean, like I said, most of these are presets, slightly modified. Yeah, grain nerd, that's me. I don't know if I got anything special in Vital or not. I can't remember. I'll usually build a patch in Vital. Yeah, this is one of my presets that I did myself in Vital. Let's see if we can get that to play. It's just a pad. Let me make sure. Is that going to work? And not yet. Hold on. Let's get on the right track. I'm on the right track. And what did I do wrong? I've done something wrong. Because again, this was set up for a different setup. Oh, I know why it's not playing. Duh. Let's arm the track. I apologize for the crackling. It's because I got so many things going on here, and freaking out the drivers. I've got ASIO and WDM drivers trying to work at the same time, which is never good. Yeah, banging the CPU hard because all the other stuff is running too. What else? Let's see. I'm afraid to close anything because this thing is so jury rigged today. Interesting thing about this is that if I just play this, what's it going to do? That's interesting. So let's do this. Let's get to a point in the song where I've definitely got that. Let's flip back over here. And I'm going to mute everything except for Vital, because that's a quick and easy way to let you hear this sound without the rest of the world waking up. Oh, I'm on the wrong track. There we go. Oh, dummy. There's the sound from Vital. So this sound is all made from various Roland samples, or largely from a wavetable of Roland sounds. I can't remember where I got it. It might have been from Starsky Car. And then a couple of my the basic shapes wavetable, and then one of my own combined together for the pad. A lot of people, when they do patches in Vital, and they do demos of patches in Vital, they turn everything on, and most of my stuff is an exercise in less is more, or becoming that way anyway. I mean, if you look at this song, it's only 5 instrument tracks and 2 drum tracks, because I'm using 2 different drum kits in different parts of the song. But when you start turning everything on, you end up with, in my opinion, you end up with a lot of mud. And so you really need to be cognizant of the space that you're leaving for things. And if you look at the initial structure of this song in clip view here, get the mixer out of the way. I mean, you see, there's lots of space there. There's lots of places where things aren't playing, and I mean, there's only 2. Well, the only thing that goes through the entire song that doesn't stop playing at all is this Sound and Myth. Oops, let me go back over here for a second and disable that and enable that. Turn it back on. Use any. I do, Luke. Yes, I do use follow actions. I did not in. Well, actually, this one. This one I did all of the follow actions in scenes. And basically, the follow actions here just step down through what's going on over in the rest of the track. It's not really doing anything fancy. I love follow actions. Follow actions. I build out a song with follow actions, and you know, that's how I get everything done before I flip it over to session view. So in the case of this one, the idea was just basically let's step this down through here, and we step down through. We may play this one 2 times, this one 3 times, this one once, whatever it is. But the idea is just let's use this to get through the arrangement of the song, get it moved over, and then I can go ahead and fine-tune stuff in arrangement view. Now, in other instances, I will actually do, if I'm going to do something that's like pseudo-generative or just kind of a random ambient backing track kind of thing, I'll do follow actions on the individual clips, and they'll start getting kind of out of sync, so to speak, because the other thing when I do that is I'll make them odd lengths. Everything in this is very straight. There's 16 bars, 8 bars, 32 bars, 64 bars, whatever they happen to be, because I wanted this to follow a fairly tight structure. But if I'm doing something that's non-structured, an ambient thing or a generative thing, I'll do the after actions or follow actions in the individual clips, and I've even done things there where I'll step down through a segment, then randomly go somewhere else and follow another sequence on a track, while another track is doing something entirely different. So the danger there is in if you move too far away from where things are lined up initially, you can get some really weird. You may get some really weird key shifts or things that don't match well in terms of key or note selection. And I know that they're doing things like having note quantization as your friend, but what I don't know how to do yet in Ableton Live is have the note quantization follow chord or key changes. So that's something I got to learn how to do. I'm sure it can be done. I just haven't figured it out because that would let me do generative things that change key as it moves down through the overall sequence of the song. Define follow. I'm not sure what you're asking, Luke. Oh, how does quantization follow? I don't know. I don't know if it does or not. I would like note quantization to be able to if I move into a segment of I'd like it to be able to follow a key change in the overall song. So let's say I want in a bridge. I'm doing a song and then I want to do a bridge, and in the bridge I want to modulate up a fourth, and that way. So do a key change. Let's say I'm starting in C, key change to F. Do the bridge. At the end of the bridge, we come back to C, and I want the note quantization to follow. And let's make that more doing a straight major scale change is easy-ish. I mean pitch quantization, note quantization. Pitch quantization. And so as I'm moving into another thing, and the trick is if you're going to be in a major key and you're going to change it, it's not that difficult to do because you can, I've discovered, set a key for a clip. I found that out by accident. But I don't know if the quantization follows that automatically. Major to major is not a big deal because the intervals are all the same. But if you would do something like major to minor, then your intervals change, and so the pitch quantization has to change at the same time. And I know, Luke, you got that worked out in modular a few months ago, and that was really cool. And that's what got me thinking about this. Well, if we can do it in modular, can we do it in Ableton Live? And I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just haven't figured out. I haven't had time, unfortunately, to figure it out. I unfortunately don't have as much time as I would like to work on music, and I think that's an instance for a case for a lot of us that if I could spend all day doing nothing but doing music, that would make my day. I mean, who wouldn't want to be able to do that, except someone who's not a musician. But so anyway, that's I think you should be okay with using the clip key mode settings. I think so. Yeah, I just haven't tried it, and the tricky part in that is if I'm doing something generative and not everything moves together. So if track 1 and track 2 have gotten down to the point where we're changing the key, but track 3 hasn't quite gotten there yet, you're going to have this instance where track 1 and 2 are playing now in F, and track 1 is still playing in C. So there's going to be there could be some weirdness unless I can figure out a way to say, okay, we've played this mess of stuff long enough, and now we're going to go ahead and change to this next mess of stuff. And that's the kind of thing that things like Akai MPCs do almost inherently, and so if they can do that, and that's basically software running on a little computer, we should be able to figure out a way to do this in here. So that's a challenge. I'll get to it at some point. It's not necessarily a major project for this week, but doing it in scenes is easy. I mean, that part's easy. But again, if I've got odd movements going on within individual clips through a scene, it gets. I'm trying to be able to have this pseudo random or off time operation going on with individual clips within a segment of the song. It's. And it may not be able to be done. I don't know. Or I may have to treat it. What I may have to do is treat it as movements, so to speak, within a song. So I get one movement to work the way I want. I then build the next movement of the song. That gets sequenced separately, then do a third movement or whatever. Then I move all of that over to arrangement view and slide things into place so they line up the way I want them to line up. And that may be the way I have to approach it, because that would do it. It would do the thing. The breakdown performance of that. Yeah. My head's exploding enough with the setup I got going on tonight to do this one, and I'm not sure I've really done it justice. It's the first one of these I've kind of put together, so I mean, the idea I think tonight was just kind of show how the flow worked, sort of, and I'm not even. This song was done 2 weeks ago. I don't remember 2 weeks ago very well. I have a hard time remembering yesterday. So, there's that. We can run through the different sounds real quick, as long as the computer's going to behave. I might as well do that. So, and I've got all this great control now with this keyboard. So, say Myth is doing this little sequence. Myth is a CPU hog. So. But this is just playing, just playing little arps, and that's all within Myth. So the solution, Luke, for the keyboard knob issue was that, and I'll go back over it real quick, but because I did it at the top of the show, but in settings, in the MIDI settings. Real important the way things are set down here. So scroll down through all my input ports. Come on, scroll. You're not going to scroll for me? Oh, don't do that. There we go. Okay. On the input ports, very important that the input ports be track only. Now I've got this. I don't know that this one needs to be on. The second one needs to be on at the moment. There's part of this that I still haven't finished working with, but input track only, no sync, no DAW, no remote DAW remote, no MPE for this particular keyboard, just the track input. And then, the other thing is right now I've got takeover mode set to none up here. That seems to be the way it works the best. And then for my outputs, I'm sending track and sync to various things. In this case, Minibrute, Take 5, Op 6, because I want to be able to control their sequencers. Here's the kicker. I don't send anything back to the Keylab. And what I believe was happening is that I believe that the Keylab and the computer were fighting. My expectation, and the way this works in Ableton Live 11, is that there is a back and forth. Oh, shoot. Let me go back over this again. Sorry. Push the button, get the right thing on the screen. There we go. Okay, back up to the top. In MIDI, in settings, MIDI, we come down here. I'm taking input from Minibrute and Take 5. I've got them set to take remote control input so they can control the apps that go with them. The Keylab itself, track input only. No input from remote. I don't want it doing we don't want it doing anything other than track input. I've got the second one turned on here. I don't know that this needs to be on. This deals with the MIDI ports, I believe, that are on the back of the unit. So going down here, outputs, I'm sending track and sync to Minibrute, Take 5, and Op 6 so that I can control note and sequence with them, and time. Nothing goes back out to the Keylab. And again, what I believe was happening is there was kind of a fight going on between the two. And so the only thing that I may be turning this output back on, the port 2 output back on, in the instance where I want to send MIDI out of the MIDI output on the Keylab. If I wanted to have a synth or something downstream. MIDI loop, MIDI fight, I'm not sure. All I know is that now it's beautiful. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. We'll get that out of the way. This is all set up to work within Analog Lab, so it's not necessarily ideal for even Arturia plugins outside of Analog Lab. But in Analog Lab, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that's what I wanted. And this also, by the way, helped Luke. If you remember last week, we were looking at the controls from the Kontrol S, and they were a little quaky and shaky. This also cleared that up. But doing the same thing on the Kontrol S49, and that had been working absolutely perfectly in Ableton Live 11, just turning it on and plugging it in. So that's the quick recap on that. We go, like I said, we can go through the sounds. I think I got some control here. That was Myth we heard. Some of this I'm going to do. Let's turn Myth back off. Take it out of that. Come over here. And this is what I've got going in the augmented woodwinds. I think I have the right one. Let's make that go away. And, let's see if this is going to be nice and smooth for controlling here. I don't remember. So I'm going to give you the down shot on the keyboard again. So basically the keyboard's got control for Analog Lab here, which is DAW control, and user preset control, which actually works. But if I go into Analog Lab, now I should have control over an Arturia synth, and if I turn a knob, something's going to happen. I don't remember how these line up. So in this scenario, it still jumps. If you notice that color knob jump, I'm going to turn morph. So here it still jumps a little bit. Once you get a hold of it, it's fine. Had this been wrapped in Analog Lab, it would have been perfect. So there's very definitely a connection between this keyboard and the Analog Lab software. which is fine because unlike it's a fairly lightweight application. Lets you do some neat preset setups above and beyond what you can do in an individual VST. And then you can map things from you can map things the way you want. If you own the full version of the synth, you can map controls to the 9 controls across here. You can map things to the faders. You can map things to the buttons, and you have if you're in Analog Lab mode, you can have Analog Lab is bitimbral, or can be, and if you're in Analog Lab mode, do this. If you're in Analog Lab mode, you've got the bitimbral parts. Each part has 9 controls, or 9 rotary controls, 9 faders, and 9 buttons. And then each part, you can select between parts here, your top part, your bottom part, and then they've got a third setting, which is kind of an overall setup of controls for the patch, and so it's really a nice setup when you turn it all on and make everything work. It's really, really cool, and it's to the point where, the next time I have money and it's on sale, I'm buying the full Analog Lab or Analog whatever the heck it is, the full thing, the whole shooting works. I want everything, because I'm a control freak, the presets that come in Analog Lab itself are fantastic. Every one of them is good, but there's a few of them I'd like to be able to say, well, it'd be nicer if I could control this instead of the thing that the designer decided that I wanted to be able to control. But it's really, I really dig it the way it is. It's a nice piece of software, and this stuff sounds great. I mean, you don't say, yeah. So that's the woodwinds. We already heard the vital patch. Why am I using the mouse? So let's do this. Let's turn that one back off. We'll jump over. Like I said, you already heard the vital patch. Let's jump over to, and see now I'm doing track control here, almost as fluidly really as I could on the Kontrol S. It's a little different layout, but the function's there. So I can unmute the track. The thing here is mute is when it's off, the track is muted. That's a little odd, but that's the way that goes. That enables it. And so this is, they've rebuilt the original Minibrute. But they've given it, they've made it a polysynth. Keylab looks nice. Polyphonic. No, it's no, and so it is channel aftertouch. For poly aftertouch, I've got the Native Instruments Kontrol S, and that is its own beautiful thing. The problem with I'm gonna talk about Kontrol S in a few minutes. I'm gonna run through the sounds here real quick. We'll play a little bit of that track again, and then I will talk a little bit about Kontrol S. But when I remember clearly 2012 when the original Minibrute came out, and I went down to, I've told this story somewhere, but I went down to the local music emporium, and there it sat, on the table in the showroom, and the requisite stack of Mark II S49. And so the S49 that I have is the Mark III, the newest version. the requisite number of synth geeks were hanging around the music store, and there was the Minibrute sitting on the table. And it was like everyone was afraid to touch it. So, I muscled up to it and started playing with it. Of course, the original Minibrute was a monosynth. But, fat, just makes wonderful sounds. Just an amazing sounding little keyboard, and it was cheap. And but I didn't buy it, and I kind of regret that now, I think, maybe. Although I do have the Polybrute, which is, Mondo. But there are differences. There are definite sound differences and functionality differences in every different iteration of the Brute. And they're all wonderful. I mean, they're all really great synthesizers. But they came out with, just recently came out with Minibrute V, the VST version of it. And unlike the original Minibrute, it is now a polysynth. Other than that, and they gave it a nice effects section. Other than that, it's the Minibrute. And so I've gone down the YouTube rabbit hole, listening to and looking at videos on all the various Brutes, and if I had the money and the space, I'd collect them all, because each one of them is their own wonderful, unique instrument. And I'm thrilled that I got the Polybrute that I did. If I had $4,000, there would be nothing stopping me from getting a Polybrute, the Polybrute 12. It's the Polybrutes or the Brutes are that good, as far as I'm concerned. Joy of being able to take, what was a monosynth, do that. It's fun. So that's that's what's going on with the Brute. And again, sorry about the crackles tonight. I've got the studio is set up completely differently than it usually is. Had to, because of what I wanted to show tonight, I needed to be able to run a web browser as well. So I've got Ableton Live running ASIO drivers at the same time that I have Windows doing WDM shared mode drivers into the same interface, so that I can get everything out to YouTube. So it's things are on a ragged edge. I'm surprised the whole thing hasn't blown up, to be honest with you. So that's that one. Turn that off. Move on to the next one. One thing that this doesn't do, that the Minilab setup doesn't do, that the Native Instruments controller does, is it's not quite as contextually aware as you change tracks what's going on. You do have to be kind of hands-on with it, which I don't mind. I mean, it's really nice with the Native Instruments to be able to cruise through the DAW and have things pop up right then and there. But this isn't bad, and it's again, it actually slows me down a little bit, so that I think more about what I'm doing. So that's a good thing. So the last instrument here is the augmented voices. Now, in the case of augmented voices, I've got it running through its own set. It's not only its own internal effects, but I have it running through its own instance of Epic Clouds, just to build it up a little more. And this is after touch responsive. So with the exception of the Vital Patch and the Minibrute V patch, I think all of these are factory presets. Maybe with some, actually there's been some slight modifications to this one that I never bothered to save. But yeah, and I can see that from the little asterisk there. One thing I love about Ableton Live is that if you know, it saves the synth parameters in situ. So when you pull up a synth, even if you've been sloppy and not saved your presets, it generally remembers what you did. The next two tracks are just drum tracks. Turn that guy off. Put this guy back on. These guys. So this is the... Gotta head out. Okay, Luke, thanks for stopping by. I'm not going to be much longer because I'm tired. It's been a long day. It's we're cooking on an hour, almost an hour and a half here, and that's pretty much what I planned for. So, so we got a rock kit, and I'm just going to go ahead and play one of its patterns. Just grab one here. It may work. Well, let me stop the sequencer altogether and do that. What did I do? I don't know. I did something wrong. Story of my life. Oh, I know why. There's nothing for this particular clip is empty. There it goes. So just a straight ahead rock kit. Nothing fancy there. And then in the B sections, once this stops, we've got this other drum kit that plays. And we'll do it that way. Turn that off. Grab the next track, turn that on, and that does this thing. And it's a subtly different kit. I mean, it's the two of them work together nicely, I think. And you can even play. I mean, I can even play. Even doesn't sound bad if I play the two over each other. Let's turn that guy back on. We'll start here in a second. Oh, I've got it set to 8 bars before it'll do its thing. Coming up here shortly. So the two of them actually complement each other pretty well. So that's the breakdown of what's in the track. That was pretty much all that I wanted to talk about tonight. I do have one other thing to talk about, and let me get it so just my face is on the screen here. We'll press that button at the same time, and so the I mentioned that I have the also have the new version of the Native Instruments Kontrol S, the Mark III. I bought early, and subsequently there were several features of it that are not ready, and I knew that going in. So I'm not angry about that per se. I knew going in that certain things weren't going to work, and they don't. Like, for instance, the Native, the app that Native Instruments has for editing your own user presets on the keyboard does not recognize the new version of the Kontrol S, so I can't do any user configurations. There's a couple other things that you need to be able to, on a Native Instruments keyboard, you need to be able to use that app to set up. And it worked beautifully with my Mark I Complete Kontrol S keyboard. And still does work beautifully with that. I mean, there's no problem with that. It does exactly what it's supposed to do if I roll back and use the old version of the software. Unfortunately, you can't have both versions of that software resident on the machine at the same time. It's an either or kind of situation. So if I want to do setups on the old keyboard, I have to connect it to a different computer running version 2.94 or something of the control software, or the whatever the thing is called, and to set that keyboard up, and then this one requires version 3 something or another to do anything. Anyway, so that functionality didn't work. The play assist functions don't work, and there's some other little things that don't work yet. And again, I knew that going in. I'm going to stress that. I knew going in that was a problem, or not a problem, but that was a thing. And what I took exception to, or what I take exception to, is that at the time, the good folks at Native Instruments said that the getting those things to work was imminent. And they said that it would be working first quarter of this year. So that means by March. It is now June, midway through June. It still doesn't work. Now, yesterday or the day before, can't remember which, this week has been a little crazy, so everything's running together. But they put out a posting on their website, in their forum section, indicating that the stuff that we were told was ready back in December for rollout in January, February, March timeframe is now going into beta test. And they expect to have some of it ready in July, August. Now, until this past couple of days, it has been, for 3 months, been complete radio silence on this. Even in the forums, when people ask them directly, what is the status of this, there's just been no response. In my experience, I mean, I've been using Native Instruments software for over 20 years. And in my experience, this last 6 months has been completely unlike Native Instruments. I've been really unhappily surprised by that. With that said, I absolutely love the Mark III control keyboard. It's wonderful to play. The keybed is wonderful. The controls are wonderful. The display is wonderful. When you're working with Native Instruments, specifically contact instruments, the control is outstanding. And if it's a contact instrument that is new and supports and is developed with NKS2, their new version of NKS, the menuing is fantastic on the display. It really, really works well in that environment. Outside of that environment, at this point, it doesn't work so well, like I said, because you can't do user setups. Once that comes along, I think it's going to be the combination between this, or between the Kontrol S and the Keylab. I'm not going to be wanting for control, with the possible exception of something in MPE, and I'm really not 100% sold on MPE yet. So, I mean, I played the Osmos keyboard at the last NobCon, and I really like that controller a lot. It's a wonderful instrument, but I'm not entirely sold. There's not enough consistency in the MPE specs for me to jump on that bandwagon whole hog. I'll give that a while. By the time that comes out, who knows what else will be happening. By then maybe the Keylab Mark III will come out and it'll be MPE compatible and all that kind of stuff. Who knows? We'll see. But as it is, I think once that final bit gets done on the Kontrol S, the control setup here, I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm very happy with it now. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy with the way things are working now. Now that the Keylab is working, so control is a very happy place for me right now. So I think that's going to. With that said, I think that's going to about do it for me. I know it's late for some people, early for others. It's coming up on my bedtime. I had a long day, a long weekend, and busy days this week coming up. So Enzo, thanks for stopping by. Luke, also thanks for stopping by. And I know Steve, you had to go earlier, but if you catch this on the replay again, Steve, thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Anyone else who's out there lurking in the darkness, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed the show. Those of you who see it on the replay, I hope you like it. And thanks for coming and hanging out on replay later on. If you do like what you're hearing and seeing, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel if you're not already. If you're go ahead and whack the like button. If you don't like it, whack the thumbs up twice. That'll work. Stop by, visit my website at GerenM.net, my Bandcamp. All the links for that will be down in the description for this if they're not there already. And I think that, like I said, is going to do it for me. I'm going to see what happens if I roll this thing back and see if I can actually play this song for the outro. You know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to turn all the tracks back on. You know what? I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to hop over here since I've got this queued up, and since everything is ripped apart the way it's working anyway, let's go ahead and we'll play 23rd Winter number 14.